Close your eyes. Build your spine upright. Karen, make sure you're sitting high enough not to irritate. You could even sit on a bolster. That often helps this hip pelvis region relax more than on a flat surface. Shoulders back, shoulders down. Soft skin of the face, eyelids, scalp. Soft skin of this top shoulder. Soft skin of the back. Not losing your uprightness, but let that skin, let the nerve in the skin smooth down. Buttocks down. Feet down. Now, join your palms. And in this quiet state, pay homage to the root teacher of this practice, Patanjali. In this quiet state, let's practice. Bow. Release your hands. Raise your head. Open your eyes. Stretch your legs. And stand. Blankets aside. Be in Tadasana. I have to adjust this camera slightly. Let's see. Not quite level, not sure why. The camera changes every time. Okay, Tadasana with your feet hip width. It would be extra wonderful if you would get on a hard floor, wood floor with those feet, especially Karen with nerve issues. Softness doesn't necessarily make things easier for that nerve. You can find the connectivity through the muscle more easily when the contact is firm. Bone understands and responds to bone, something firm. So inner foot, outer foot, push. Actually, don't be content with simple contact. You want to go farther and project yourself from the roots of these legs, which are up here at the base of the rib cage, right? And Karen and everybody else, the nerve root of that leg is the brain. So you need to make sure that the sensation of standing on that foot, the command and the sensation of extension comes from the brain to that foot. Now go from the brain, that's neurological psychological through the root of the structural root of the leg in the spine and lower spine and anchoring in the rib cage. Then that kind of near root, right? There's the distant root of the leg. And here's the real local root of the leg, right in the pelvis, bones, muscles. Stretch to the inner foot, balance both feet. Spread the foot. Don't lose the inner foot. It's very difficult to not lose it, but fight for it. Add the outer leg to the outer heel. Don't lose the inner foot. Spread to the outer foot. Spread out and stand down. Then relax. You can work on the hard floor. I'm just putting things back, or you can stay. I'm going near a wall. You can free balance if you like. Vrikshasana, tree pose. So, Karen, keep the strap on. Oh, right leg first. Catch the ankle. Stand straight again. Push down from the skull, the rib cage, the root of the leg, and lift this knee high. So there is a deliberate stretch of that groin. Then place the heel as high as you can against the pubis, if you can come up that high, and press the heel. When this heel presses against the thigh, sometimes we turn off the action in that leg. We lose the foot. We roll out because this foot's pushing. So come back onto that inner foot and don't just roll your ankle, stretch from the skull to that inner foot. Then this knee can start responding because it also extends from the skull. Now, if you have balance, keep it. Take the arms up. Now, from the side, don't turn. I'm just turning so you see. Don't let this thigh come forward. Bring it back so the bones of the leg stand vertically. And you stretch up and then come out one thing at a time. Hands, then leg, or leg, then hands. One thing at a time. Stand on 2 feet together or apart. Apart is the sort of measurement standard. So even in this one, those thighs have to be back. Don't be resting. Now side 2, left foot, my right. As soon as we come off one foot, the center of gravity shifts over the standing leg. That shift is fair, but any settling that accompanies it is not fair. Pull up tall. Stretch through the inner foot. Raise up the left leg. Place the heel as high as you can. Keep fighting the push of the left leg. Translate that interaction into vertical extension. That's also, not coincidentally, the way to find your balance. 5 back, right? I have to hop to turn sideways. Thigh, back, and release that leg, stand up from the brain. Take the arms up. So your extension is still in the hips, and then come out one thing at a time. Legs first, then arms, arms first, then legs. Stand on 2 feet. Take your chair, put a blanket over, put the back of the chair very close to a wall. And then you could either put a sticky mat or a blanket, but some kind of padding. A sticky mat if there is uncertainty about balance. Also, you can be near a wall. There's all kinds of other things you can do to help out with balance. Okay, so this is Uttita Hasta Padangusthasana. Use wall, don't use wall. Pick up your right foot to the chair seat, pelvis square, standing leg, vertical or pretty darn close. It shouldn't sway. And then you pick up that right heel and put it on top of the chair back with the heel, not so much the Achilles, but that hard heel patted on its chair seat, like the heel would be on a floor. Now, hands to the hips, stand straight. From the brain, take all that nervous system down to extend both legs toward the feet. Right leg is going kind of in a straight line, and the groin and the inner thigh are different from the right leg side. But still, you must create length on the right side. Push that right leg toward the wall without changing the hips. An internal extension. It's like the inner body reaches. Take your arms up. Take them up and to the wall. Stretch up, and fingertips don't go to your foot, they go up the wall. Go forward. As you do, Karen, if you get nerve pain, you stop. But I'm asking you to keep those leg actions very clear. So the work is hamstring groins, and that buttock stays away from the skull. Outer hip, tailbone. Now, anybody who wants to can take the hand to the chair back if more forward bend is available. Lengthen your spine away from that leg. Now release from this carefully. Maintain your breath. And then arms, trunk comes back upright. And with your arms, you can help the leg out or bring it out to the chair seat, to the floor. Stand on 2 legs and take a walk, because that standing leg, if it's not used to this, it gets tired. So walk around standing. Don't like start hobbling like an old person, but stand straight. Side 2. Tadasana, just marking the spot. Then the left foot comes up. And you notice already the tendency in the standing hip. Then the heel comes to the chair, and you keep the pelvis square, and that standing leg vertical. And you figure out how to stretch both legs into the floor. Tadasana, standing leg, you're familiar with, but this, come on, pick up that foot so the heel goes up to the back of the chair, okay? Oh, that's a shadow, I see. Now, lengthen that thigh, lift that chest, okay? Chest up, hands on the hips for a bit. Open the chest. Then take the arms up if they'll go. Keep the heel down. Keep the heel stretching outward. Inner body lengthening up to the ceiling, out to the foot. You go forward. Don't pull the foot away from the wall, but keep lengthening the groins. Wherever you land on the wall is fair. Continue creating length. You don't have to go lower. You just have to get longer. Stand taller on the standing leg. Make sure the inner foot pushes. Likewise, the lifted leg. Emilia, lower the left hip, lifted leg, hip. And out you come. First, your trunk comes upright, and then you bring the leg down to the chair and the floor. Use help with the hand if you like. Stand in Tadasana, and then walk around. Tall, walk tall. Walk like you are taller. Keep it simple. Parshva Uttita. Sorry. Parshva, yeah, Uttita Hasta Padankushtasana. But using the chair. So the standing leg arrives at vertical. The lifted leg starts on the chair seat. Okay. And this inner surface has to not be caught down. The action of the leg is to circularly roll. So this groin comes up, this groin comes up, and the butt goes down. And then there is an extension that lets you stand on the foot. It's not going to be as strong as the standing leg, but you got contact. Okay. Then leg goes straight, same rules apply. Groin up, hamstring down, buttock down. Extension out to the inner foot. So leg firm, stand up tall. Take your arms up. Take your arms all the way up. Keep that right buttock down. Now, is it possible to reach for the wall? Touch it anywhere. First place is fair. Reach the other arm away. Go to your ankle. Look away from the wall. And come back up. And help your leg out. Inner knee support. Stand on two legs and walk around. So that was Uttita Parshva Hasta Padankushtasana. That's the standing leg, Uttita, or complete pose, Parshva to the side. Hasta, arm, Padankushta, big toe of the foot. So it's the out to the side, standing, big toe of the foot pose, which we're doing on a chair. So you come up and you get that left knee bent and open the left groin. It opens, first the knee is bent and knee bent, and you should put that chair to a wall. Yes. That stability is very helpful if your body attempts any spontaneous variations. Buttocks down from the skull. So this is a tough one for that hip there. Pull up the right front pelvis, very tall. Even with the hand, take your hand to the front hip blade. Pull it up, stretch the thigh down. That looks good, Chaya. And the left buttock down. Then the left leg stretches out, heel to the wall. So and it can be the toe to the wall, but make sure the heel is well grounded. And stretch your trunk up, buttock down. The action comes from the brain, so release that brain into the connection. Stretch your arms up to the ceiling, equalizing both sides, stretch out through the legs, then the arms spread horizontally. Then you go to the wall as wherever you land at the wall with that left hand, trying to stay tall. Stretch the right arm away. Keep those legs going and take the left hand to the ankle or leg. And stretch away from that left leg. Look away from the left leg. Expand away. And then watch your breath. Watch your brain. Inhale, come up. And then help that leg out. Lift the inner knee, stand on 2 feet. And then walk. Take a short, tall walk. A short, long walk. Yes. Okay. Good girl. Stay. Yeah. Good. Good dog. Stay. Stay. Thank you. Nope. Stay. Okay. That was that. If the dog had come in, there would have been a cat alarm over here. All right, so now you might once again choose to get near some kind of support. You still need the chair back to a wall. So this part isn't that important, and if you really need it, and you don't have a second wall handy or a corner, you just use a chair, anything, piece of furniture, so your hand can touch. The idea is keep yourself stable. Parifrita, Karen, just checking in. I can't see you, but unmute yourself if things are going bad.
No, they're not going bad. They're going okay. Thank you.
Good. Parifrita, the way this will not go bad is if you keep the action of the legs very clear. So there you are standing. And at first this knee is bent and square, level the hips, come up tall, leg bent, and then you cross over, and you cross over up high. It's just elbow on the shin. And your first job is to lengthen the leg to the foot, because the first thing that happens is this leg gets short, this side gets short. So get it long again, and that will make a turn possible. If it's possible, turn more, don't go down lower, just turn. And if you had that wall behind you, you could use it to open your chest. If you had the hand on your hip, you might be able to use it. Karen's got a strap around her pelvis. She can grab hold of it. Your leggings you can hold on to. Come out slowly. So Gay, you're turning away from the leg. You want to turn toward the leg. Right? So if you raise the right leg first, in theory, on the right side, you raise your right leg first. Your left elbow crosses over, so you are turning toward the bent leg, not away from it. That's it. So if you miss that on side one, take side one at least briefly. Now don't let that standing leg side of the pelvis drift forward. Stand thoroughly on the standing leg, thoroughly. And adjust the lifted leg then, standing. And you fold, stretch your arms, lengthen that trunk, take Utthita, complete vertical stretch before you cross over. Stay tall in that crossover and firm in the legs. Stay up high, Gay. Stay up high. Put your forearm on top of the knee at first, so you're lifted in the pose. You want to be like this at first, and only over time you cross over. Nobody wants to be here just yet. Firm legs, vertical standing leg, inner and outer, both feet. Long left thigh now. And out you come. Oh, hopefully you've turned the ribs all the way. Then you come out and you stand in Tadasana. So that was the bent leg version. So the straight leg version has all the elements that you have experienced. So this is my right leg toward the camera. I know it's sometimes hard to see. The leg away from the camera is left leg. So my left arm is coming down to the right shin. And I just take upright, not vertical. It's a little leaning forward rotation. As you move into this, keep stretching those legs. Reach that opposite hand to the shin. I see, Chaya, you're still with the bent leg. That is fine. If you should not go farther. Lift that chest, Gay. Shoulder blades on the back. Good. And out you come. Undo one thing at a time. Don't try to spin the legs and your trunk out at the same time. Stand up. If you need to take a few steps to sense and organize, go right ahead. Next side. So In theory, that chair is braced close to a wall. That stability is helpful. So you start with a bent leg and then come up to a straight square and level the hips. That is the short hand. And the long hand is lengthen those legs from the skull to the heels. So all of the avenues of extension are being used. Then you come forward as you would in Parsvottanasana. Begin with two hands coming forward. And then it's the opposite hand. In theory, you're on the left leg, so the right hand comes down to the outer left foot or ankle or shin. So you're turning toward the lifted leg. Keep that lifted leg, left side of you, long. Leg lengthening, lengthening, groin long. Lift the ribs, turn. Feel free to stretch the arms. Now on the other side, okay, there was a bit more rotation. Is that true? Or am I now there's rotation. Stretch the arms. Roll that shoulder back, Amelia. Shoulder back, right shoulder. All right. And you release one thing at a time, coming out. Exhale. Stand there in Tadasana. Okay. Now, just for the sacroiliac, you need to take your chair away and open up a place on the floor for you to be flat. So I'm going to bring this closer and turn it down. So you might see a little closer what's happening. And if you miss my foot sticking up, I don't mind, but I want you to see what's on the floor here. And I'll show it different. This is the pelvic, sorry. The two bones you feel here, the ilium bones, and in between them in the back is your sacrum, which is the base of your spine. So the spine is here and pelvis bones here. The joint between them looks like actually a bit of a angular thing, but we should think of them as parallel lines. Just examine them in your mind as two parallel lines. So when you lie on your back, you want to examine those two parallel lines that aren't the outer, the center, but they're right where I described. They may be different. And you see where I'm poking with my fingers, I'm poking it at the lower and upper end of that corresponding sacroiliac joint. So I'm trying to kind of talk from the front and sense from the back and find those two joints and the muscles that cover them. Go, experiment. Be able to stretch your legs straight. Don't be too close to a wall. Now, when you straighten one leg, what happens? Make it the right leg. Bend both knees. Start with the knees bent. Use your fingers as sensors. Use your back skin as sensor. Every nerve you've got is just looking, listening, and stretch the right leg and see what happens to that sacroiliac from the front and the back. Now, don't change anything, but be aware if that right leg has rolled in or out. Don't change, just note. Chaya, maybe you might be happy with what you're doing, but we're lying on the floor doing this work. If you're okay with what you're doing, that's fine. Otherwise, can you join us lying on the floor? Okay, now with that left knee bent, right leg straight, you observing the sacroiliac front and back. Roll that right leg on the floor, the one that's straight on the floor, roll it toward the inner heel. Roll from the groin toward the inner heel. So that whole leg internally rotates, back thigh broadens. And then bring it back to the center. And then keep the equality if you can, or at least the observation, and let that right leg roll out. So there's the relaxation rolling out, and then there's a little more actively rolling out. And let it go. So you can feel the movement of the leg has a profound effect pelvically. Bend both knees, stretch the other leg. Bend both knees, get neutral for a second. Then stretch the second leg, left leg. Watch what the pelvis does as the leg stretches. Watch what the pelvis does as the leg is passively extending and then actively extending. Inner foot, outer foot. Then a deliberate internal rotation. And a return to the center. And a deliberate external rotation. And back to the center. And so you've observed some things, and maybe those two hips are different in one or another aspect of these movements. Now, stretch both legs. Separated from each other a little bit. Watch the pelvis as the heels lengthen out, dragging on the floor. Okay. Initially, you're attempting to stay centered, but you're also observing what the tendency is, right? One leg is going to want to roll out, one leg is not, or one leg want to roll in, and the other leg won't. Find out, examine closely. And now, very deliberately, your heels are 2-3 inches apart, maybe slightly more, doesn't matter. It's not scientific. Roll over that heel so your big toes touch each other, not the heel. So you've rolled an internal rotation. And stretch as powerfully as you can. Give it a good minute. Recruit more and more of the length of the inner leg. And Karen, interestingly, work through the lower leg. Everybody, not just Karen, work through that inner lower leg. Tremendous. You have to try to wake up that muscle of the outer calf and push it toward the inner calf and stretch the inner calf. Just relax the hips and pull from that lower leg, rolling in, big toes touching. Outer calf working, big toes, inner heels pushing forward. So that might be close to a minute. Relax from that. Let go. Now, instead of rolling the leg out, you keep the leg neutral here. That means center of the heel, not toes rolling away from each other or toward. Back leg center. Now, in this posture, can you imagine that you are pushing your outer leg, outer heel away from you? So a powerful extension, but going from the outer hip. And Karen, you may feel this in the nerves, one or the other of these actions, right? Toes together, stretching the inner leg, or neutral, stretching the outer leg. You will feel, everybody will feel the pelvis bones changing in the way they're transmitting the force. And some people will feel it as nervy one way, not nervy the other. People with sacroiliac misalignments. So you persist with this outer heel extension until it penetrates deep enough to have an effect. And yes, if it hurts you, stop right away. You've learned something. What you've learned when one of these pains you, when it's the inner leg, something is going funny in the sacrum side of the sacroiliac joint. And when pushing the outer heel gives disturbance or difficulty, then it's the outer pelvis side of the sacroiliac. All right, now relax. If your legs are not heated up and sort of mildly achy from the effort, you weren't making enough effort, this is strongish work. It's very pinpointy and persistent work. Now, of course, we're going to turn that into Supta Padangusthasana. So keeping both legs straight, and you perhaps with whatever you learned from rolling the leg in or keeping it straight, maybe you have learned what you need to do to even out these two sacroiliac joints. You maintain that in the left leg as you stretch the right leg. We are working structurally today, so don't catch the big toe and take a giant forward bend. Keep the leg vertical, kind of like you would on the chair when standing. Now there's more weight on the right buttock, so you gotta just take that into account. But measure those two sacroiliac joints. Are those joints running parallel to each other, away from the skull toward the skull? Are they tilted? Make the two sides of the pelvis run parallel to the pose. And stretch your legs from the brain to the roots of the legs in the spine, and the buttocks and legs stretch to the heel. Now, roll the leg on the floor internally. Roll to the big and push through the big toe side of the leg on the floor, left leg. Reach to that inner calf, big toe base joint. Find out what the sacroiliac is doing. Let it be flat on the floor. Now let that left leg return to vertical. And you want to experiment with the right leg. Roll the inner thigh towards your left foot. Stretch the inner heel toward the ceiling. Make that inner leg super extended. And what that's doing is, you can feel it, maybe it's drawing out length on the sacrum side of the sacroiliac joint. And if you move the outer right hip, lifted leg hip towards your left foot, you work the outer pelvis, the ilium side of the sacroiliac joint. Balance. And release, come out. Bend the knee. Put the foot on the floor. Put your fingers on that abdomen, monitoring front and back of sacroiliac, and straighten both legs. Observing. Take a moment, then change sides. Let the breath and the brain settle, then you change sides. Take up the right foot. Vertical. Okay. The arms can be straight or bent, but both shoulders on the floor. So the trunk stays put. Now, stretch the legs. You know the options here. When things are very, Karen, it's likely on the nervy side, there's generally speaking more stiffness. So you work in the parameters of whichever side is stiff, and you work at it by repetition and with this close observation, which extends all the way into the lumbar spine. It isn't just that sacroiliac, but you feel what the effect is up and down. Are you rolling that floor leg, right leg internally? Go to work with that lower leg. Push through the outer calf inward and stretch to the inner calf, to the inner heel. And roll the leg in, seeing how that sacroiliac responds. Keep it there for a while. Cook so you feel what's happening. Then make the opposite experiment if you need to, for some the answer is clear. Make sure both legs, lifted leg as well. The floor leg works internally and neutral. The lifted leg works internally, neutral, and slightly externally. Release, come out. Take the foot to the floor, stretch it out straight, observe. See if you can drop that thigh to the floor. See if the two sides of the sacroiliac, the two sets of butt muscles in between the bones and the floor. You got to feel all those layers there. Sort them out. It's quite possible that one buttock muscle is still really grippy. Pinpoint your focus. All right. Now, bend your knees, roll to the side, come up sitting. You need, I don't know, you need you need a chair. I think I'm going to skip the floor part. Or I'll divide you into two groups. Karen, by the way, you're in the group on a chair. Okay, sitting, doing seated twists, going through a chair. The others of you can do seated twists, seated on blankets on the floor. What's the difference between the two groups? Trouble in the sacroiliac, trouble in the low back. That's the chair group. Trouble in the sacroiliac, trouble in the low back. So Karen, you need to take the strap off the pelvis and use it differently. I think everybody should take the chair because this is using a belt in the chair. The way I'm going to show you is really a lovely experience. So everybody should do it. Get a chair, put a sticky mat through the chair so you're sitting on something grippy. And I'm going to sit through the chair backwards. And all the usual rules apply. If your shins aren't long and your heels don't go to the floor, put a brick under your feet. Now, watch what happens here. Watch the camera. Don't be sitting away. Spin your chair around for a second. This goes over my head, shoulders, over the chair seat, and it tightens. Now, before it's done tightening, I make sure I'm where I need to be for my happy seated chair twist. So don't be too far back or too far forward. Then this back part of the support, I have to say, it can vary where it goes against your back. So tighten it. And let me see if I can show you this tightening business. I pull the free strap. It's like I'm pushing it, and I push the other side. I push them toward each other, and it makes it very easy to tighten the strap. I push the two ends toward each other. Get off that sticky now. Instead of pulling one away. Now, where this strap goes kind of depends on your spine, your sacroiliac. There are people who find tremendous stability when this is close to the tailbone. Next, it can be middle sacrum, slightly above the tailbone. There's another group who go to the very top of the sacroiliac, bottom lumbars. and they make that very firm. So I can't tell you where the most firm place is, but maybe start just below that lumbar spine. Don't go to the tailbone. Go just to below the lumbar spine, top sacrum, and back up into it so you are quite firm. When you sit upright, you should feel like you're resting. And then turn. When you turn, don't let your pelvis twist. So when you turn this side, you're turning toward, rests on the strap. It doesn't have to push forward to untwist, doesn't have to sort of follow, doesn't have to be dragged. Now descend through the leg to the foot. Sit down. And come out and change sides. Okay. Now you'll know in coming out, if not before, if this was chancy or correct. So if it's chancy, go down or up. Change. If it's not chancy, if it's feeling right, definitely try it on side 2. Keep that pelvis stable. Keep it resting. Now, Karen, be cautious about, don't be enthusiastic about the twist. Be more enthusiastic about the sense of stability there as you stretch up. So the idea is to work on stability rather than the twist. The twist is like a test. So can I do things keeping stable? All right, one last bit about this. For those who can go farther, if you see this, I'm holding the strap crossing my thighs, the lap strap. And to do my twist, I'm pulling on it. Instead of on the chair up here, I'm pulling on the strap. Okay. For me, that feels better. I've crossed over, opposite hand to the leg I'm turning toward, and I'm pulling on that strap. Change sides. If you see where my arm is going, that elbow is coming out. It's kind of sneaking down and under the chair. If I were a taller person, I might go out here, but that's a little too much reach for my shoulders, so I go this way. But I'm pulling on that strap. And come out. And loosen the strap. And come all the way out. Are you okay, Karen?
Yes, that felt heavenly.
Okay. Good. So, Chatushpadasana, Setubanta, Sarvangasana. Chatushpadasana. Of course, feel free to put a blanket under the neck and shoulders. Also, feel free to put a strap around your ankles. If you cannot easily catch the ankle, you give yourself a little arm extender so you can stretch your arms. And those who have knee issues, you put your feet on bricks, raise those feet. So bricks at the wall with the feet, maybe toes bent up the wall to support you if the knees hurt going into this pose, okay? So you've got some options. I don't know if you need them all. Chatushpadasana, pick your hips up. Chatush is 4, the number 4. Pada is foot, or you can think of it as limbs, 2 arms, 2 legs. Press them down, raise the hips. Come down, rest. Rest that pelvis on the floor and observe that sacroiliac again. Broaden the buttocks, spread out so you really can observe. Now, it's quite possible that one part of that pelvis is heavier than another part. Divide the pelvis into quadrants. The heavy part the heavy quadrant has to lift up to be level with the other quadrants. So it might come up like a 16th of an inch just to level itself out. Then maintain that as you come up into Chatushpadasana. When you roll the shoulders, it gets a little difficult to see if you've maintained, but maintain that sense of extra action in that one part. Yes, so it's starting to come up better. Go back down, rest your sacrum, observe it against the floor, rebalance it, lifting only to evenness, lifting the heavier quadrant. And from there, maintaining that emphasis, go up again. When you roll those arms under, the senses blur a little bit in their focus, but to get it back, just reinforce that extra action. Press the arms down, lift the pelvis with your leveling action. Now, you feel free to put a brick underneath the hips to be in Setu Bandha with support. You may also use a bolster, but the usefulness of the brick is, like we said earlier, bone appreciates the information delivered from another bone. So bony density communicates to the bones. Measure the 2 sides of that sacroiliac. If there's trouble, you turn the brick crosswise so it doesn't just line up with the sacrum in the center, but it also covers the ilion bone as well. Now, there's no requirement to stretch the legs unless the bones of the pelvis permit. So, yes. Relax the buttocks. And I will relate my personal experience for a moment. My work in archaeology left me physically very asymmetrical. If I wasn't before, I certainly was after. And I came out of that career with sciatica. And one of the things that was most painful was this pose with the brick against my sacrum. The thing that was most beneficial was Chatushpadasana without support, but using my muscles in this sensitive way to level the pelvis. This pose with the brick is used to help fix sacroiliac problems. Come out. Raise the hips with your evenness in mind. And keep them up. So you're going back to Chatushpadasana for a few moments. And then lower the hips. And as you lower them, be sensitive to the levelness so they land level. And either with your knees bent, letting them settle, settle, settle. And then stretch your legs for Shavasana. And Karen, if you've got a special thing that helps you in Shavasana, let me say one thing. If you take 2 blankets and roll them up, and you can do your Shavasana with the ankle strapped. It just helps the legs relax. But you take these 2 rolled blankets and, how shall I say, you bring them in as little bitty shims to the sides of the pelvis, just small. So your sacrum can rest more on the floor and that side hip is lifted. And if you see, even without any tension without the strap, my feet stay straight because I'm kind of fixing this ilium hip socket thigh position with these rolled shims. It makes for a very pleasant Shavasana. And Karen, I might help with the sciatica. time to come back. So it is the end of class. Of course, you may stay as you are. You're at home. But I will say Namaskar, and I will thank you for this class, this practice.
Devon, thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. I hope it feels a little better.
Oh, it feels a lot better. Thank you.
Good. Less
Thank you, Deb.
tingly. Thank you.
I'm not sure, but I know, one of the problems is I'm putting way too much weight on the left side.
So the class was useful for
Very.
sorting what you're doing wrong. That's good. That's always the first step.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I have another class I must run off to right now. So
Thank you, Devon.
Namaskar.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.